Hello, dear students. Myself Subramanyam. Students, in this class, I am going to explain you an important topic from the chapter Breathing and Exchange of Gases. Okay. So, as already you have studied in your theory class, you know about respiratory organs, mechanism of breathing, exchange of gases, as well transport of gases, regulation of respiration, and disorders of respiratory system. So, I personally feel that in this particular chapter, the topic transport of gases requires some deeper insight and some background information in order to understand as what it is. Student, as you know here, students, you see here in this chapter on breathing and exchange of gases, it begins with the respiratory organs, and page number 269 there is a diagram of a human respiratory system, and in page number 270 mechanism of breathing, and in page number 271 respiratory volume is being explained, and also they have given diagram where there is a continuation of explanation of mechanism of breathing. And then in page number 272 in 17.3 there is exchange of gases. So we are going to begin our discussion by understanding this, what is that exchange of gases. And then here you can see a pictorial depiction, diagrammatic explanation, the way how the oxygen and carbon dioxide is being transported. Okay, we are going to consider that. And then in figure 17.4 there is a diagram which shows alveolar cavity and which is surrounded by blood capillary, and it's a sectional view. You can see the way how the layers of cells are arranged, from where the oxygen enters into the blood and carbon dioxide enters from blood into alveolar air. Okay, and in the same way, let me wipe it out. I will make it clear so that we can consider that again. And next, here in the page number 274, you can see there is a transport of gases, heading a transport of gases. The transport of gases includes the transportation of molecular oxygen and carbon dioxide. All of you know molecular oxygen is absolutely required to the body of any organism to perform its activities. It is the chemical compound which is very much required to bring about the oxidation of glucose molecule. And carbon dioxide molecule is produced as the metabolic byproduct, a waste substance which has to be transported from the different parts of the body back into the lungs that you have studied. And here, in order to make you understand this literature, where they have given the explanation about the transportation of this oxygen and carbon dioxide, they use a specific words. I cannot say them as a word. There's a like a PO2 and PCO2. In your theory class, you will have learned that it's a partial pressure of oxygen and partial pressure of carbon dioxide. Partial pressure of oxygen, and in the same way partial pressure of carbon dioxide. And if you have the idea as what that partial pressure is, then you will be able to understand the literature which is being given as a part of your textbook so as to explain the transportation of gases. Okay, so now let me make you understand what is that partial pressure before going to read the lines of textbook in order to make you understand the transportation of gases. Okay, Students, if you want to understand partial pressure, you shall know something about atmospheric pressure. Okay. So, what is this atmospheric pressure? Students, atmospheric pressure is the pressure which is caused, which is created because of the presence of gases in the atmosphere. So, what is this atmosphere? Atmosphere is a sphere of gases around the planet Earth. Okay, if this is the planet Earth, right? Around the Earth, there is a sphere of atmosphere. Okay, atmosphere which is made up of gases like nitrogen, which is 78%, oxygen, which makes about 21% of the total atmosphere, and the noble gases like argon. Okay, like argon, which makes all about 0.93%, and carbon dioxide, which makes about 0.03%. Still, many other noble gases are there in a negligible concentration, which is immaterial to consider in this context of situation. So, our atmosphere is made up of all these different types of gases. And because of the presence of all these gases in the atmosphere, we experience a pressure. Actually, we don't feel the pressure from outside because the pressure of the atmosphere is countered by the pressure inside our body in the form of a blood pressure. Okay, so this atmosphere pressure, if it is measured by using mercury manometer, it is about 760 mmHg. Okay, what is the value of atmospheric pressure, students? It is 760 mmHg. Out of this 760 mmHg of the atmospheric pressure, what is the value of the pressure of oxygen? That is the partial pressure. That is the partial pressure of oxygen. And what is the value of the pressure out of this 760 mmHg of the carbon dioxide? That is the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, which is simply represented as PO2 and PCO2 in your textbook. Students, I hope that you have understood what is that PO2 and what is that PCO2. And if you consider the value of PO2 and PCO2, okay, as per the content information in your textbook, which is a factual presentation, you see the partial pressure of oxygen in the atmospheric air is, okay, the partial pressure of oxygen, that is PO2, in the atmospheric air is 159 mmHg. I hope you understand what is that partial pressure now. And in the same way, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 0.3 mmHg. And the pressure which is exerted by these individual gases being a part of the atmosphere, or the pressure exerted by these gases being present as the part of a blood and its plasma, has got a very important role in the exchange of gases from our lungs to the blood and from the blood to the lungs. As well, they also have an important role in the movement through the blood, that is the transportation of gases. So here, the important thing which we need to learn here is that exchange of gases So what is that exchange of gases, student? It's an exchange of oxygen plus carbon dioxide. Why that carbon dioxide and oxygen gases have to be exchanged from the blood to the atmosphere? You have the very basic and clear idea. The oxygen is required by each and every cell of our body to break down the glucose molecules. When the glucose molecules are broken down, the energy is released, and ATP molecules, which we consider as energy currencies of the cells, are produced. So, each and every cell of our body requires oxygen. You know, this is the pandemic situation, what's happening to the people infected by the COVID 19. So, the saturation level of oxygen goes down. Okay, so the saturation level of oxygen has to be sufficiently present beyond 95. Okay, so here the oxygen being present in the blood is provided to cells so as to break down the glucose molecules in the mitochondria to produce ATP. And when the glucose molecules are broken down, this carbon dioxide is released as a metabolic byproduct, which is waste. So this waste carbon dioxide, which is produced as a metabolic byproduct, has to be transported back from the cells, tissues, and organs through the blood to the lungs so as to be released out. Okay, so when we inhale, what is that? When we inhale, that is when we take in the air to our lungs, we take in the oxygen along with the other gases, and oxygen enters to the blood capillaries which are present in our lungs through a structure which we call as a alveolus. And at the same time, the carbon dioxide which is present in the blood capillaries, which is being brought from the different parts of the body, will enter from blood capillaries into the space of alveolus. So this is something what we call as exchange of gases. When carbon dioxide comes to the alveolus, we exhale. Okay, we exhale, that inhalation of the air, that's the inspiration, and exhalation of the air, which is the expiration, which togetherly makes breathing. Okay, you have understood this in the mechanism of breathing. Okay, I need not explain. I don't want to explain the mechanism of breathing here. In this class, I am much concerned about the exchange of gases in the alveoli and transportation of the gases from the lungs to the different parts of the body. There is the transportation of the oxygen from the lungs, from the capillaries of the lungs to the different parts of the body, and at the same time the transportation of the carbon dioxide from various parts of the body back to the lungs. There is the exchange of gases, that is the external respiration which occurs in our lungs, and then the transportation of gases. So let me explain that. What is that exchange of gases in the lungs? That is the external respiration, and then the transportation of gases. Students, let me try to give you a brief idea about the internal structure of lungs so as to consider the alveoli, so that you will easily understand the exchange of gases in the lungs. Students, all of you know the structure of lung. Okay? So let me write a rough diagram. This is the voice box. This is the trachea. Okay? This is trachea. The trachea, you know, you will have cartilaginous rings, right? And the trachea divides into left and right primary bronchi, or primary bronchus, and this further divides to give rise to secondary bronchus, and the secondary bronchus It is also called a lobar bronchus. It will further divide to give rise to tertiary bronchus. Tertiary bronchus. Tertiary bronchus will further divide to give rise to terminal bronchus. Okay, this is the terminal bronchus. Terminal bronchus will further divide to give rise to terminal bronchiole. Terminal bronchiole. Terminal bronchiole further divides to give rise to respiratory bronchiole. This is respiratory bronchiole. Okay, respiratory bronchiole will further divide to give rise to alveolar duct. Alveolar duct will give rise to a sac-like structure which we call as atrium. Atrium will have many alveoli like this. Okay, like this. So you imagine all these branches bifurcating and giving rise to all secondary, tertiary, terminal bronchiole, atrium. So millions of alveoli will be there in a lungs. So this makes one lobe of lung towards one side like this, and there will be another lobe of lung, and another lung towards another side, and each lung, right lung will have a 3 lobes. You have studied that, and the left lung will have a 2 lobes. I don't want to elaborate on this aspect. So what I wanted to consider here is one particular structure, that is one alveoli, to explain the exchange of gases. Okay, so now I consider this alveoli like this. Okay, like this. And around this alveoli, there will be a presence of blood capillary like this. And you know the atmosphere along with the oxygen will enter lungs through trachea, bronchi, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi. These are all respiratory passages. And finally, through terminal bronchiole, atrium, the air reaches the individual alveolus. So air now has come here. Now the oxygen which is present in the alveoli will enter into the blood capillary. And in the same way, carbon dioxide which is present in the blood capillary will enter into the alveolar space. This exchange of the oxygen and the carbon dioxide which occurs in the alveoli, we call this as a external respiration. Okay, and this exchange of gases in the alveoli, that's external respiration, do not involve any expenditure of energy. difference in the partial pressure of oxygen in the alveolar air and the partial pressure of oxygen in the capillary blood, as well the difference in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the alveolar air and the capillary of the lung is responsible for the exchange of the gases, which we need to consider for our study now. So let me write the diagram of this unit of the lung alveoli and partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the alveolar space as well in the capillary blood, so as to make you understand. Okay, students, here I have taken directly the structure of alveolus from your textbook. Now I will explain the partial pressure level of the various gases, the partial pressure level of oxygen and carbon dioxide with respect to the alveolar cavity and then the capillary blood. So you see here, let me extend the blood vessel here like this. In order to make you understand, I'll write. So it's a sort of continuation of the blood vessel. Okay, so this is the continuation of the alveolar cavity. So as I already told you, in the air, PO2, you know what is PO2? Is 159 mmHg. Okay, and PCO2 is 0.3 mmHg. Now let's see what's the value in the alveolar cavity. Here the PO2 is 104. You have to remember this. It is the information directly from your textbook. And PCO2 is 40. So how come the value of the partial pressure changes from the atmospheric air to that of the air present in the alveolar cavity? So when we inhale the air, it is influenced by the temperature of the body. The lot of moisture is added, as well the partial pressure of the oxygen and carbon dioxide. These all factors will influence, bring about the changes in the partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So here the partial pressure of oxygen is 104 in the alveolar air, and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 40. You have to very clearly remember this. And then the blood is coming from various part of the body through the blood capillary which surrounds the alveoli, like this. So let me write the value of PO2 here in the blood capillary. PO2 is 40 mmHg. So you see here, you find out the difference in the alveolar air. It is 104 PO2, whereas here it is 40. There is a clear-cut difference in the value of partial pressure of oxygen from the alveolar air to that of the oxygen present in the blood capillary around the alveoli. And then what is the value of PCO2? PCO2 is 45 mmHg. You see here it is 40 mmHg. In the alveolar air it is 45. So there is a clear difference in the partial pressure. The pressure of oxygen, partial pressure of oxygen is more in the alveolar air. So naturally, because of the difference in this partial pressure, the oxygen diffuses from alveolar air. Let me use different color in so the oxygen diffuses from alveolar air into the blood capillaries through the cell layers, here and here cell layer, and in the same way carbon dioxide will diffuse from blood capillary into the alveolar air. So there is an exchange of gases, and after the exchange of gases in this way without involvement of any energy, active energy involvement, where there is simply diffusion of O2 and CO2 based upon difference in the oxygen and carbon dioxide tension, difference in partial pressure value of oxygen and carbon dioxide, there is occurring a diffusion, and we call this as external respiration. External respiration. Okay? And after this exchange of gases, what will be the value of the oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood capillary after the exchange of gases? So you see here, this is the point which is the venous blood. Pulmonary vein has brought the deoxygenated blood from all parts of the body to the blood capillary. This is the value here in this point. Whereas in this point, the blood becomes oxygenated. When the blood becomes oxygenated after exchange of gases, PO2 value here will be 95 mmHg. PCO2 value will be 40 mmHg. You have to very clearly remember these values. This is exchange of gases. Now, this oxygen has to be transported to all parts of the body to reach the organs, the tissues, and then the cells. So, oxygen is transported and carbon dioxide is carried back to the lungs. So, this is a transportation of oxygen and bringing the carbon dioxide back to the lungs so as to facilitate the external respiration, that is the exchange of gases, is something what we call as transportation of gases. What is that called as? Transportation. Transportation of gases. The transportation of gases through the blood. And this transportation of gases through the blood involves both chemical and physical phenomenon, chemical and physical processes, where some amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide is simply carried through blood plasma in the physical solution, and major portion of oxygen and carbon dioxide is transported in the form of chemical compounds, and that is that transportation of gases which you are going to study now. Okay, students, I hope that you have understood that external respiration, exchange of gases in the lungs, and also you have understood the different partial pressures. Okay, students, let me consider this very diagram in your textbook so as to explain the transportation of gases as a whole. You see here, this is the alveoli. Okay, as how it's I explained by writing the diagram. This is the alveoli, and you know these are the capillaries. Okay, and from the right part of the heart, you see this is the right part of the heart. You have studied this in your circulatory system, heart and circulatory system. This is the pulmonary artery. Okay, and one correction, students, when I was explaining you, I mentioned that it's a pulmonary vein. One correction, you consider that it's a pulmonary artery, it's not pulmonary vein, which brings the deoxygenated blood to the alveoli. It's a pulmonary artery. So this pulmonary artery, okay, transports the deoxygenated blood. And you know, the pulmonary artery, the value of PO2 and 40 is being given here, which I explained you earlier. And you know the value of PO2 and PCO2 is given here. You have to remember these values. And here pulmonary vein is only the vein which transports highly oxygenated blood. It transports the oxygenated blood to the left auricle. This is the left auricle. This is left auricle. Okay, this one. And the value of PO2 in the oxygenated blood is 95 mmHg. And PCO2 is 40 mmHg. What I explained is being given here in the form of the diagrammatic depiction. The same diagram may be used to ask questions in your NEET examination. Okay? So now, we have to understand how this carbon dioxide, how this oxygen is transported to all parts of the body. In what form? Through the blood. And how the carbon dioxide is transported from all parts of the body to the lungs. That's the transportation of gases. Okay? So I hope you also understood the diagram. So now let us continue the discussion. So let us consider transportation of gases. So you know this involves oxygen transportation, and transportation of carbon dioxide. Okay, this is one, this is two. So more than 97% of oxygen is transported by hemoglobin. You have to remember this. Remaining 3% of oxygen is carried directly in the plasma. In the plasma, you know, the plasma is majorly composed of water, and of course there is a presence of minerals, glucose, and all the other chemical substances, proteins and all. I don't want to go to the composition of the plasma. And 3% of the oxygen is transported in dissolved form in the water of the plasma of the blood. Okay, that is in the form of physical solution. And whereas carbon dioxide, 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide is transported in the form of carb amino hemoglobin. Carb amino hemoglobin. You have to remember this. Okay? So what is this? You know the hemoglobin is represented as Hb. Hemoglobin is nothing but globin a protein, and heme, iron part. A ferrous iron will be there. 4 ferrous iron atoms will be there. And the 4 ferrous iron atoms will combine with 4 oxygen molecules. So when it is transported through hemoglobin, oxygen is transported. 4 oxygen combines with 4 ferrous iron of a hemoglobin. So that one hemoglobin carries 4 molecules of oxygen. Okay, I will tell that. So here, Hb, hemoglobin, is a globin plus heme. This globin is nothing but a protein. Protein is made up of amino acids, you know that. Amino acids. Amino acids will have NH2 group. So I write hemoglobin as HbNH2. I have taken out one amino group and I am writing HbNH2. So now let me consider this. Okay. HbNH2 plus CO2 gives rise to HbNHCOOH. We call this as a carbamino hemoglobin. Nearly 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide is transported in the form of carbamino hemoglobin. So what do you understand by this? Hemoglobin is not only involved in a transportation of oxygen, but it is also involved in a transportation of carbon dioxide. Okay? In the form of carbamino hemoglobin. And this carbon dioxide, remaining 70% of carbon dioxide, I mean actually this is not being given in your textbook. You can take down this reaction. Okay? So for time being, not to make you understand, to continue the explanation, I will wipe this off. So remaining 70% of carbon dioxide is transported in the form of bicarbonates. Like NaHCO3, sodium bicarbonate, and KHCO3, potassium bicarbonates. Okay? So how these bicarbonates are formed and where they are formed in the blood? Are they formed inside the RBC or in the plasma is the question. So now let me explain the process of a formation of these bicarbonates. Now and then let us read the textbook, and there I will explain you the places and the location where these bicarbonates are formed. Okay? So now you see 70% is transported in the form of bicarbonates. Students, this carbon dioxide will interact with water to form H2CO3, that is carbonic acid. This carbonic acid will undergo ionization to form H plus and HCO3 minus, that is bicarbonate ions. And this bicarbonate ions, HCO3, can combine with sodium or potassium to form NaHCO3, that is sodium bicarbonate, or as well it can also make a potassium bicarbonate. Students, these bicarbonates are formed in a larger concentration, in a larger numbers inside the RBC. You know why? Because inside the RBC, the process of formation of carbonic acid takes place much faster. Much faster. So this carbonic anhydrase enzyme is present in more concentration in RBC, and because of this, the rate of formation of carbonic acid is very high inside the RBC, and more bicarbonate ions are formed in the RBC. So we are going to study that, students. So to sum up with here, in relation to transportation of gases, O2 is transported in the form of oxyhemoglobin by hemoglobin, and in plasma in the form of the physical solution, and carbon dioxide in the form of carbaminohemoglobin, and 70% in the form of bicarbonates. So when we consider the two areas in the body, that is one alveolar area in the lungs where the oxygen concentration is very high, formation of oxyhemoglobin will be more in lungs, whereas in tissues where there is more concentration of carbon dioxide, formation of bicarbonates and carbonic acid will be more. So here, along with studying the percentage of the formation, the percentage of oxygen and carbon dioxide transported in different forms, we shall also study what are those factors which are responsible to form oxyhemoglobin in lungs. Formation of oxyhemoglobin takes place in molar rate in lungs. What are those factors which favors the formation of oxyhemoglobin? Whereas in a tissue, after the transportation of oxygen in the form of oxyhemoglobin to the different parts of the body, when it reaches the tissue, this very oxyhemoglobin will dissociate and oxygen molecules are released to be supplied to cells. So there are the factors which favors the dissociation of oxyhemoglobin in a tissue level, in tissue areas. In lungs, there are the factors which are responsible for the formation of oxyhemoglobin. We shall consider this. Okay, students, let me try to explain you the chemical and physical situation, acidity wise, that is pH wise, temperature wise, and concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide wise in the lungs and in the tissue, which favors the formation of oxyhemoglobin and which favors the dissociation of oxyhemoglobin. Okay, students, let me consider the very same diagram given in your book. You see, this is the alveolar area. Oxygenated blood transports the oxygen in the form of the oxyhemoglobin and it is supplied to the body tissues. In body tissue, the cells, because of the metabolic activities, that is metabolic activities which is supported by cellular respiration, that is breakdown of the glucose. You know this, you have studied that in your cellular respiration. C6H12O6 plus 6O2. Okay, oxygen is required here, oxygen is supplied, gives rise to what? It gives rise to 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus 36 adenosine triphosphate molecule. So this is something which happens inside the cells in the mitochondria. The reason why the oxygen is required and the reason why the carbon dioxide is released. And students, more carbon dioxide molecules are released due to oxidation of glucose molecule in the tissue area. When more carbon dioxide molecules are released, the CO2 combines with water with the help of carbonic anhydrase and it results in H2CO3, carbonic acid. And this carbonic acid will undergo ionization to give rise to hydrogen ion and bicarbonate ion. Or let me write this side, it will be easy for you to comprehend, understand. Sorry. Yes. H2CO3 is formed. This ionizes to form H plus and H2CO3 minus. This is bicarbonate ion. So this hydrogen ion formed in a tissue decreases pH. So what is the meaning of decrease in pH? Acidity increases. Acidity increases in tissue. And because of cellular respiration, oxidation of glucose, heat is released and the temperature in a tissue increases. Okay, there is an increase in the temperature, increase in the acidity, that is decrease in pH, as well there is increased concentration of CO2. These all factors, increased acidity, that is decreased pH, increased temperature and increased CO2 concentration favors dissociation of hemoglobin in tissue level. Okay. So now what happens in lung level? Because of the reaction, the formation of this very reaction, formation of carbonic acid, and this bicarbonate ion will associate with sodium to form a sodium bicarbonate. And all these reactions which are taking place here will occur in a reverse fashion, so that the carbon dioxide is released back, as how it is shown here. Because of this, pH increases, that is acidity decreases. Temperature is low in alveoli, in lungs, and concentration of oxygen is more, PO2 of oxygen is more. So all these factors in lungs favors the formation of oxyhemoglobin. Okay. So what they have highlighted in your textbook, this speaks about the partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide. They also speaks about the transportation of oxygen and carbon dioxide percentage in different forms, and they speaks about, they have given about the factors which favors the formation of oxyhemoglobin in the lungs and the dissociation of oxyhemoglobin in the tissue. So this is the focus of the textbook. And beyond this, there are the phenomena like a chloride shift or Hamburger's phenomenon, where you will study the formation of bicarbonates in the blood plasma, formation of carbonic acid in RBC and all. So it is not in the purview of the content of the textbook to discuss here. So we may go out of the way. So with the backdrop of this information, students, if you read the textbook, definitely you will clearly understand what it is. So let me read out the textbook. Okay, you see here exchange of gases. Alveoli are primary sites of exchange of gases. It is the site where the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place. And all the passages what you just listened from me, like trachea, bronchi, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, terminal bronchiole, atria, they are all the respiratory passages. They are conducting passage of the air. Exchange of gases also occur between blood and tissues. That is internal respiration. Exchange of gases which occurs in alveoli, that is external respiration. External respiration. Okay. So between the blood and the tissue, what is that? Internal respiration. Internal respiration. Okay. O2 and CO2 are exchanged in these sites by simple diffusion. There is no energy involved, I told you. Mainly based on pressure, concentration gradient. What is that concentration gradient? A difference in the pressure and partial pressure and a difference in the concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Solubility of gases as well as the thickness of membranes involved in diffusions are also important factors that can affect the rate of diffusion. You see, the membranes of the alveoli, the wall of blood capillaries are so thin and they are single layer thick, as how it is represented here. You see here. Okay? Right? So, this thin layer facilitates exchange of gases, students. Pressure contributed by an individual gas in the mixture. What is that pressure? That's I told you partial pressure contributed by individual gases. Gas, what is that individual gas? The oxygen, carbon dioxide. Out of many gases present in atmosphere, the individual gas means the oxygen, carbon dioxide. In mixture of gases is called partial pressure. The part of a pressure of a particular gas like oxygen or carbon dioxide in the pressure of sum total of all the gases is a partial pressure. I have explained this. And represented as PO2 for the oxygen and PCO2 for the carbon dioxide. Partial pressures of these two gases in atmosphere, that is the air, and the two sites of diffusion are given in the table 7.1. What I have explained by considering alveoli, it is being tabulated here. Students, you have to very clearly remember this. I don't want to mention this again. I have explained you. You will understand that. A gradient is present for CO2. What is that gradient? Difference in the partial pressure level and difference in the concentration is something what we call as a gradient. More oxygen in the alveoli and less oxygen in the blood capillary. The blood capillary which carries the deoxygenated blood from the pulmonary artery. Okay, that's a gradient in the opposite direction. From the tissues to blood and blood to alveoli. You can understand this. As the solubility of CO2 is 20 to 25 times higher than that of O2, the amount of CO2 that can diffuse through the diffusion membrane per unit difference in the partial pressure is much higher compared to that of O2. I have explained all these things, students. Okay, students, I think reading this simply may not simply work out. I have explained everything so as to make you understand. One thing I have not explained is this oxygen dissociation curve. Just after posting this video to the group, you read this part of the textbook. Other thing you can simply understand. If you have any doubt, I will be there to clarify. This is something which I found which may appear a bit difficult for you to understand. And I will take supportive discussion class. Be ready to ask me questions. And about oxygen dissociation curve, I am going to explain. I will take another 15 to 20 minutes class. I will record the video and I will explain what is that oxygen dissociation curve and what are those factors which favors shifting of the oxygen dissociation curve. For example, the oxygen dissociation curve may shift towards right side or towards left side. So these all things are there. I will explain that later on. So for this time, you go through my video. Definitely it will help you. Okay, let us continue the discussion with the next video. Thank you all.